this performance, so if you could please refrain from making cell phone videos. Thank you.
There is something miraculous in your life. Something enchanting and more powerful than the things that affect you and make you dance like a puppet. Angel and puppet. Now we have a play.
Just a simple piece of wood. A carpenter named Master Antonio took this piece of wood and raised a small axe to hit it.
Don't hit me!
Master Antonio was startled and looked all around.
I must have imagined that voice.
And then he hit the wood with his axe.
Ow! That hurts.
Master Antonio put the wood to his ear.
Ah, yes, I see. I imagined that voice.
He started shaving the wood.
Stop! You're kicking on my belly.
Master Antonio fell over in shock. Just then his friend, a woodcarver called Geppetto, entered.
Master Antonio!
Geppetto, what brings you here?
My legs! This morning, an idea came into my head. You won't believe it, but I was thinking I could make a puppet. You wouldn't happen to have a piece of wood, would you?
Master Antonio gave the piece of wood to Geppetto.
Whoa! Oh, did you see that?
I swear.
Did you see that? No, none of them saw it. Doesn't make any difference. Put up your dukes.
I didn't
Put up your
know.
dukes. Put up your dukes.
They fought a little. Then Geppetto hobbled off holding the wood.
Well, first things first. What name should we give it? Lovely pine. Look, here's a nice eye. Occhio. Pinocchio. That's what I'll name my puppet. Pinocchio.
Having named his puppet, Geppetto got to work. He started with the head and face, but as soon as he made the nose, it began to grow and grow and grow. Geppetto kept struggling to cut it back, but the more he shortened it, the longer it became. He then made a mouth. The mouth wasn't even done when it began to laugh and mock him.
Oh, stop laughing at me.
Geppetto continued, making his shoulders and arms, and as soon as his hands were finished, Geppetto felt his hat being snatched from his head.
Oh, give me back my hat, Pinocchio.
Pinocchio put the hat on his own head.
Rogue of a child.
When Geppetto finished making his legs, he felt a kick on his nose.
Ow! Well, I suppose I deserve it. I must teach him to walk.
He put the puppet on the floor and led him back by the hand to teach him to walk one step at a time. When his legs were loosened up, Pinocchio began to walk on his own, and then run around the room, and then he rushed out the door, jumped into the street, and began to run off.
Well, catch him! Somebody, catch him!
The townspeople, seeing a wooden puppet running like a racehorse, stood still in amazement. At last, a policeman happened along and managed to catch the runaway puppet by his nose and handed him over to Geppetto.
We're going straight home, and when we get there, you can be sure we will settle this.
Hearing this, Pinocchio threw himself on the ground and refused to walk any further. The curious town people gathered around and said, "That Geppetto is a good man, but he's a tyrant with children. If they leave that poor puppet in his hands, he will probably hack it to pieces." Hearing this, the policeman had a change of heart, set Pinocchio free, and marched poor old Geppetto off to jail. Pinocchio ran home and sat down, but his satisfaction didn't last long.
school. I preferred chasing butterflies and climbing trees.
Poor little simpleton. Don't you know if you do that, you will grow up to be a perfect jackass, and everyone will make fun of you.
Shut up, Cricket!
If you don't want to go to school, why don't you learn a trade so you can earn a slice of bread honestly?
Of all the trades there is only one I like. Eating, sleeping, drinking, and having all the fun all day.
Oh, everyone who follows that trade winds up in the poorhouse or in prison.
Watch out, wretched Cricket. Don't make me angry.
Poor Pinocchio. I really feel sorry for you
Why?
because you're a puppet. And what's worse, you have a wooden head.
At these words, Pinocchio jumped up in a fury, and taking a hammer from the workbench, he threw it at the cricket. He didn't really mean to hit him, but he caught him right on the head, so the poor cricket remained there stark dead and stuck on the wall. Soon, night started to fall. Pinocchio sat down and rested his cold feet on a pail full of burning embers, and there he fell asleep. While he slept, his feet caught on fire and little by little burned to ashes. At daybreak, there was a knock at the door.
Open up the door for me.
Father, my feet, I can't stand up. Ah!
Geppetto climbed the wall and entered through a window.
My dear Pinocchio, how did you burn your feet off?
I don't know, Father. It was a hellish night. The talking cricket, and you said you're just a puppet, and you've got a wooden head, and I threw a hammer at him, and he died. But it was his fault because I didn't want to kill him, and my feet were so cold, so I put them in a pail, and they burnt off. I want a new pair of feet.
Why? So you can run away from home again?
I promise. From now on, I'll go to school and be good.
All children say the same thing when they want something.
But I promise, Father.
Geppetto's heart swelled with compassion, seeing his poor Pinocchio in such a pitiful state. So he took up his tools, set off to work, and in less than an hour, the new feet were all done. The puppet jumped down from the table and skipped around with joy.
Thank you, and I'll start school right away. But I need a spelling book.
I don't have any money. But wait.
Geppetto put on his jacket and left. After a short while, he returned holding a spelling book for his son, but he no longer had a jacket, and it was snowing outside.
At school, I'll learn to read and write and do arithmetic, and then I'll make lots of money and buy my father a new jacket made from silver and gold with diamond buttons.
show had begun. On the stage, Arlecchino and Pulcinella were fighting as usual.
Gods above! Do I wake or dream? That's Pinocchio!
It's really him, Pinocchio. Yay!
Pinocchio, our brother Pinocchio!
Yay!
Pinocchio hopped on the stage. It's impossible to imagine all the hugging and brotherly affection that he received. But soon the audience began to yell, come on with the show. At this, the puppeteer came out. At the sight of the fearsome puppeteer, everyone turned mute. No one breathed. You could hear a fly go by. The puppets trembled.
What is going on here? Who is making a riot of my theater?
Sir, believe me, sir, it wasn't my fault.
It seems to me that this puppet is made of a very dry wood. I am sure if I throw it on the fire, he'll make a beautiful blaze for roasting my lamb. Bring him on.
Arlecchino and Pulcinella brought over the trembling
Dear
Pinocchio.
father, save me! I don't want to die! I don't want to die! No!
Choo! Good news, brother. The puppeteer sneezed. That's a sign he's taking pity on you.
Oh, shoo! Oh! Shoo!
Bless you.
Thank you. Well, I will have pity on you. But I still don't have any more firewood to finish roasting my lamb. So instead of you, I'll use Arlecchino. Now, tie him up and throw him on the fire.
No.
I want my lamb well roasted.
No. In that case, throw me in the flames.
At first, Fire Eater remained hard and unyielding, like a block of ice, but slowly he began to melt and sneeze.
Phew! Okay, you're really a wonderful lad. Come here and give me a kiss. Arlecchino.
Mercy is granted.
So be it. Tonight, I'll resign myself to eating my lamb half-cooked.
Yeah!
Now, here are 5 gold coins. Go and take them and listen to your father.
Pinocchio thanked the puppeteer 1,000 times.
Thank you.
After leaving the puppet theater, Pinocchio hadn't gone half a mile when he met a fox, lame in one foot, and a cat, blind in both eyes.
Hello, Pinocchio.
How do you know my name?
I know your father. I saw him yesterday with no jacket, shivering with cold.
Poor father. But from now on, he won't shiver anymore.
Why not?
Because I've become a wealthy man.
A wealthy man? You?
There's nothing to laugh at. Look, these are 5 gold coins.
The fox extended his supposedly crippled hand, and the blind cat peered over his sunglasses.
And what do you expect to do with these coins?
First of all, I intend to to buy my father a fine new jacket made of silver and gold with diamond buttons. And then I want to buy a new spelling book so I can go to school and study.
Fool, because of studying, I lost a paw. Because of studying, I lost sight of both eyes. Now, would you like to turn those miserable 5 gold pieces into 2,000?
You bet, but how?
It is quite easy. But instead of going home, you have to come with us.
Where?
To, Dodo Land.
No, I'm almost home and my father is waiting for me.
Well, go ahead then. You're throwing away a golden opportunity.
A golden opportunity, my way!
Your 5 gold pieces could have become 2,000 overnight.
2,000, wow!
But how is it possible?
I'll explain it to you. You see, in Dodo Land, there is a blessed field known as the Field of Miracles. In this field, you dig a little hole and you put a gold piece in it. Then you cover the hole again with some dirt, water it with 2 buckets full of spring water, sprinkle a pinch of salt over it, and in the evening, go peacefully to bed. During the night, the gold piece sprouts and blossoms. And the next morning, you go back to the field, and what do you find? You find a beautiful tree, laden with as many gold pieces as a good ear of corn in the month of June.
Wow, so if I bury 5 gold pieces in a field, how many would I find there the next morning?
Oh, that's easy enough to figure out. Suppose each gold piece makes a bunch of 500. Multiply 500 by 5, and the next morning there you are, with 2,500 shiny, clinky gold pieces in your pocket.
Oh, how wonderful. I'll keep the 2,000 for myself and give you as a present. 500 as a present.
A present for us? Heaven forbid. We do not work for personal gain. We work only to enrich others.
Yeah, others.
What wonderful people. Well, let's get going.
They walked and walked and walked until they came to the Red Crawfish Inn.
Oh, let's stop here to get a bite to eat and rest a little.
They sat down at the table, but none of them were hungry. The poor cat was only able to eat 35 red fish with tomato sauce. The poor fox had to limit himself to only rabbit and sweet and sour sauce, plump hens, and roosters. Pinocchio, on the other hand, ate the least of all. He ordered a quarter of a walnut and a small piece of bread crust, but left everything on his plate. His mind was fixed on the Field of Miracles. After they had eaten, the fox called the innkeeper over.
Innkeeper, let us have 2 nice rooms. One for Signor Pinocchio, and the other for me and my companion.
Pinocchio went to his room and fell right to sleep and began to dream. In his dream, he was in a field full of trees laden with clusters and clusters of gold pieces that went clinkety-clank as they swayed in the wind. Just as he stretched out his hands to take fistfuls of those beautiful coins, he was rudely awakened by 3 knocks on the door. The innkeeper woke Pinocchio up and told him that his friends the fox and cat had left, and without paying for their room or meal. Pinocchio, confused, gave the innkeeper one of his gold coins, shrugged his shoulders, and went on his way. It was dark outside. As he walked on, he saw a tiny creature on the trunk of a tree, glowing with a dim and pale light.
Who are you?
I am the ghost of the talking cricket. Go back and take the 4 gold pieces you still have left to your poor father, who is weeping in despair.
Tomorrow, my father will be a wealthy man because these 4 gold pieces are going to become 2,000.
Do not trust people who promise to make you rich overnight. Usually, they are either madmen or swindlers. Listen to me. Go back.
I want to go on.
Children who want their own way regret it sooner or later. Good night, Pinocchio, and may heaven protect you from the assassins.
Then the ghost of the talking cricket went out suddenly, as a candle goes out when you blow on it, and the road was left darker than before. Pinocchio heard a rustling of leaves behind him. He turned around and saw 2 black shapes wrapped in charcoal sacks.
Hand over your money, you're a dead man.
You's a dead man.
And after that, we'll kill you. We'll kill your father too.
And your father too.
No, not my poor father.
They attacked him, but Pinocchio, as quick as a flash, struggled free and fled. They chased him, and just as he was about to give up, he saw a tiny little white house in the distance. He ran full speed, gasping for breath, until he finally reached the door of that house and knocked. There came to the window a beautiful little girl with blue hair, who spoke in a voice that seemed to come from the world beyond.
There is nobody in this house. They are all dead. I am dead too.
As soon as she said this, she disappeared, and Pinocchio felt himself being grasped by the neck.
No, you won't get away from us again. Let's hang him.
Yeah, hang him.
Without further ado, they slipped a noose around his neck and hung him from the branch of the great oak tree and left him there to die. A strong wind blowing and howling furiously slammed the poor hanged puppet back and forth. Little by little, his eyes grew dim. Just then, the little beautiful girl with blue hair came to the window, moved to pity, and had Pinocchio removed from the tree and brought inside. She touched him on the forehead and realized he was running a very high fever. She dissolved a medicine in a glass and handed it to the puppet.
Take this, and in a few days you will be better.
Is it sweet or bitter?
It's bitter, but it will do you good.
First, I want a lump of sugar, then I'll drink the awful bitter stuff.
Is that a promise?
Yes.
Now keep your promise and take the medicine.
First, I want another lump of sugar, then I'll take it.
You are seriously ill. Aren't you afraid of dying?
At that very moment, the door of the room opened and in came 4 black rabbits, carrying a small coffin on their shoulders. They said, "We have come to bury you."
But bury me? I'm not dead.
The rabbits replied, "Not yet. But you only have a few minutes left since you refused to take the medicine that could have cured you."
Oh, my fairy, give me the medicine. Hurry, I don't want to die.
Pinocchio told the fairy the whole story, how he'd gone to a puppet show instead of going to school, and the fire eater, the puppeteer, gave him 5 gold coins, and then how he met the fox and cat, who told him about the field of miracles and had dinner with him, but they had left him with the bill of 1 gold coin, and how he had then met the assassins in the forest who chased him and hung him from the great oak tree.
And now, where are the 4 coins?
I lost them.
Where?
In the forest.
Then we'll look for them and find them.
Now that I think of it, I didn't lose the 4 coins. I swallowed them when I was drinking your medicine.
At this third lie, Pinocchio's nose grew so extraordinarily long that he could no longer turn around.
Why are you laughing?
I'm laughing at the lies you have told. Eventually, a lie grows bigger and becomes as plain as the nose on your face.
The fairy let the puppet cry and yell for a good half hour over that nose of his which could no longer get through the door. Finally, she was moved to pity and clapped her hands. And at that signal, in through the window came 1,000 woodpeckers, who perched on Pinocchio's nose and set about pecking it, so that in a few minutes it was brought to the normal size.
How good fairy you are. How I love you.
I love you too. If you want to stay with me, you shall be my little brother, and I your good little sister.
I'd love to stay with you, but what about my father?
I have called for your father, and he will be here before nightfall.
Really? I'd like to go meet him on the way. I just can't wait to kiss the poor old man that I've caused him all this suffering and so much on my account.
Go ahead, take the forest path, but be sure not to go astray.
Pinocchio set out through the forest. But when he got to a certain spot, he saw on the road, guess who? The fox and the cat.
Here's our dear Pinocchio. What are you doing here? What are you doing here, Pinocchio?
It's a long story. The other night, when I left me after dinner, I met assassins.
Oh, no.
They wanted to steal my gold coins, and I ran, but they chased me and hung me.
Oh, have you ever heard of anything so awful? What a world we live in. Is there no heaven for honest men such as us? Oh, well, what are you doing here now?
I'm waiting for my father, who should be coming any moment.
Oh, and your gold coins?
I still have them, except for the one that I spent on dinner.
Oh, and to think they could become 2,000. Why don't you listen to my advice? Why don't you go and sow them in the field of miracles?
Well, how far is it from here?
Hardly 2 miles. Come with us.
Pinocchio hesitated and thought of the good fairy and old Geppetto and the warnings of the talking cricket. But then he did what all boys who don't have a shred of sense do.
Okay, let's go.
They walked for half a day. Finally, they stopped in an isolated field, which looked more or less like any other field.
And here we are. Now, dig a hole and put the coins in it. Good. Now then, go get a bucket of water and sprinkle the ground. Good, good, good. We can go now. Come back in 20 minutes. Come back in 20 minutes, and you'll find that a little tree has already come up from the soil with its branches laden with coins.
So saying, the fox and the cat went in one direction and Pinocchio another.
What if, instead of 2,000 coins, I find 5,000 or 100,000? I will build a castle and eat the finest foods, cakes, and candies.
While he was building these castles in the air, Pinocchio passed by the field, but he didn't see anything. He went ahead a little more. Still nothing. He stood there, scratching his head. Suddenly a screech of laughter pierced his ears, and looking up, he saw a parrot in a tree. The parrot finally stopped laughing and told poor Pinocchio that while he was away, the fox and the cat came back, took the coins, and fled like the wind. He stood there with his mouth open, not wanting to believe the parrot's words. Then he began to dig up the ground he had watered. He dug and dug and dug, but the coins were no longer there.
How many bad things have happened to me, but I deserve them because I'm a stubborn and willful puppet, and I always want things my own way without listening to those who love me and have 1,000 times more sense than I have. I will return to the fairy's house.
While he was wailing in this fashion, a large pigeon passed by overhead and asked him whether he knew a man called Geppetto.
Geppetto, you know a man.
Pinocchio ran off on the road.
Pinocchio ran off on the road that led to the fairy's house. He reached the place where the house once stood, but it was no longer there. Instead, there was a small marble slab with the following words: "Here lies the little girl with blue hair who died of grief for having been abandoned by Pinocchio."
Oh, my fairy, why didn't I die instead of you? I who am so wicked while you were so good. Tell me it's not true. Come back to life.
While he was waiting, a large pigeon passed by overhead and asked him whether he knew a man called Geppetto.
Geppetto? Know him? He's my father.
The pigeon told Pinocchio that his father was at the seashore building a little boat. Poor man, he'd been going everywhere looking for his son, and was now going to search for him in the new world. The pigeon took Pinocchio on his back to the seashore and then flew off. The shore was crowded with people yelling and pointing out at sea at a little boat with a man in it. All of a sudden there was a mighty wave, and the boat disappeared. Pinocchio cried out and jumped into the sea.
I want to save my father.
Being made of wood, Pinocchio floated easily and swam like a fish. He swam all night through a terrible storm. Towards morning, he was able to see an island in the middle of the sea. A wave washed him on shore. The sky cleared up and he was set off in search of a bite to eat. After about a half an hour, he came to a town called Busy Bee. The streets were swarming with people rushing to and fro about their business. Everyone was working, everyone had something to do. No one would give Pinocchio anything to eat or drink because the puppet was not willing to work for it.
I'm not a donkey. I've never pulled a cart. I don't like hard work.
Just then he saw a woman.
Kind woman, would you let me have some water from your jug?
Go ahead. Drink, my boy. Now, if you carry this jug to my home, I will give you a nice piece of bread and a nice dish of cauliflower with oil and vinegar and a sugar candy.
Pinocchio agreed to carry the jug. After reaching home, the kindly woman sat him down at a small table that was already laid and put the bread, cauliflower, and candy before him. Pinocchio didn't eat, rather he bolted everything down. Having gradually appeased his hunger, he raised his head to thank the woman.
Oh, you remind me of... Yes, the same voice, the same eyes, you have blue hair, too. Yes. Oh my that really you?
Do you remember? When you left me, I was a little girl, and now you find me a woman.
I'm really glad about that. I thought you were dead, but instead of calling you my little sister, I'll call you my mother. For so long, I've yearned to have a mother like the other boys. But how did you manage to grow up so fast? Teach me. I'd like to grow a little too.
But you can't grow. Puppets never grow. They are born as puppets, they live as puppets, and they die as puppets.
Oh, I'm sick and tired of always being a puppet. It's time that I became a man.
You will become one when you deserve it. But first, you must learn to be a proper boy. Proper boys are obedient, fond of studying and working, and always tell the truth.
I never obey. I'm lazy. I tell lies all the time. Well, as of today, I'm turning over a new leaf. If you only knew the grief that I felt when I thought you were dead.
I do know, and that is why I have forgiven you. The sincerity of your sorrow made me realize that you have a good heart, and there's always something to hope for from boys with good hearts, even if they are mischievous and spoiled. That is why I have come here. I shall be your mother now.
Thank you. We'll take a short 5-minute